Just before we get started, just making sure that if you haven't yet, you can introduce yourself in the chat. But just wanted to welcome everyone to our May 2026 Wisdom Study Community Forum. Again, a week earlier than normal, but glad that you could all make it. We have an exciting talk today and hopefully a good time for questions and answers as well. So get your questions ready as you hear our guest speaker for today. The format for today's session, as usual, we do want to hear from you. So send your questions in the chat. We'll try and pause throughout and see if there are questions, and then we'll definitely have time at the end to do a Q&A at the end. When you're not speaking or asking questions, if you could put yourself on mute. And then the meeting is being recorded, and we put it on our YouTube channel for those who can't join the forum, so it can be viewed after the fact. And then we do have a short post-meeting feedback survey that we'd love your feedback on new topics or ways that we can improve the forum as well. So please feel free to get that submitted at the end. So our mission with these community forums really is to move together toward equity and better outcomes for everyone in terms of breast cancer, but also in women's health in general. We've sort of expanded some of the scope of these discussions to other topics outside of breast cancer, really trying to bring together people in conversation with both medical experts and researchers, but also patient advocates and people in the community to sort of have a discussion around what's happening in the field of medicine, what's new and emerging, and what things we think are exciting and want to discuss with you. So we've had a ton of different topics. A lot of these are actually combined topics that we've put in the bullets because we've had so many over the last 5 years or so. But do check out the YouTube channel that we have where you can see the recorded forums, and you can always view those later. And feel free to share with your friends and family as well. If you find a particular topic that's interesting or that you think someone else might find relevant, you can always share those and invite them to participate in these forums in the future. But for this month, we will be discussing clinical trials, how to navigate clinical trials. And we have a special guest with us today. We have Sabrina Mayhew, who is a certified oncology nurse navigator, and she specializes in clinical trial navigation at breastcancertrials.org. And with her position and with her role, she brings both professional expertise and a lived experience. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2011, and really wanting to make individuals consider clinical trials as part of standard of care. She is an active national advocate, and she supports organizations and individuals across research, education, support, and policy, and is committed to improving access, equity, and diversity in clinical research through strong community partnerships. So her goal really is to ensure that every person facing breast cancer has access to trusted information, meaningful support, and clinical trial opportunities. So we are very excited to have Sabrina with us today. And I will stop sharing and let Sabrina share her slides. I do have them in case you need me to share, but I think you'll want to share them yourself. Is that correct? Let's see. I saw you on there. We can't hear you if you're speaking. Oh, okay, there you go. But let's see, try saying something. I want to make sure we can hear you. Is anyone else able to hear? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Allison. We can't hear
her. I can hear you. She's muted.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sabrina Mayhew. And sorry, my computer is really
acting funky right now. It's got me paused. So hopefully, and let me know if you're not hearing me
Great.
well.
And if it becomes an issue and you want me to share the slides, I have them, but let's see how it goes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about breastcancertrials.org. I know that some of you here have some familiarity with it. I'm not sure how many of you do, but I started in this role about 2 years ago, and I know we have advocates on the call who have been here longer than I have, so please correct me if I'm not giving the history correct. But it was a project that Dr. Laura Esserman started with a couple of different advocates and has grown to where we are today. So to
Sabrina,
get
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. It says that you're screen sharing, but it hasn't actually loaded yet. So
yeah, so maybe this is my computer.
okay.
I don't even know
I
why it's doing this.
okay, I can share and I can advance for you.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's try that. Okay, can you guys see the slide?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, perfect.
Um, I was going to give a demonstration at the end, so we'll try to load mine back again after um, the slide presentation, my
Sure.
screen, so I can do the demo, or I can walk you through the demo with
Okay.
your screen.
Perfect.
Um, so I'm going to start with a history and a description of our programs, and then we'll do a demo of how to use our tools and find trials for both. I feel like there's a lot of healthy and high risk individuals on the call, as well as for breast cancer survivors. And if anybody's on the call that's newly diagnosed, we can talk about that as well. Um, but the idea for breastcancertrials.org came about in the late 1990s. There were two patients who were interested in clinical trials, and they had similar experiences where their doctors didn't really tell them about trials or didn't know about trials other than those at their own hospital or clinic. So they attempted to look for trials on their own, and they found the whole process to be challenging, frustrating, confusing. One of the women ultimately did find a trial by calling hospitals individually, one by one, and asking about their available trials. And then, after these two women both completed their treatment, they joined forces and came to UC San Francisco Breast Care Center with this idea to develop a website that would make it easier for patients to find trials on their own. And then I think 10 years of development at UCSF by patients and oncologists, and breastcancertrials.org was launched as a free nonprofit nationwide service in 2008. And our mission then and still is to empower all people affected by breast cancer to learn about and consider clinical trials as a routine option for care. Next slide, please. So yes, there's a lot of different matching tools out there since we got started about 16 years ago. So just a little bit about how we are different. We've been around for a long time. We've also worked very closely with patients and advocates and providers over the years to really understand the needs of our users. The tool, the website was initially developed as a pilot and like a pilot research project that was funded by UCSF and the National Cancer Institute. Um, and we know that there's a critical need for patients not only to find but understand clinical trial information. Um, most patients or doctors learn about clinical trials outside their medical clinic or institution by going to clinicaltrials.gov, which is really hard to navigate. And we'll show a little bit about that next, but that's kind of why breastcancertrials.org began. We're breast cancer specific, which allows us to focus entirely on breast cancer related trials. And then we have a team that manually codes the relevant inclusion and exclusion criteria for each trial. So our results are accurate and useful. We're continuously improving based on feedback from our users. And up until today, and we may change this, but we don't sell or share patient data, and we haven't accepted any money from pharmaceutical companies to highlight their specific trials. And that has allowed us over the years to provide a list of trials to our patients in an unbiased and equitable way.
Yeah, and I'd say, Sabrina, that many of the people who sell the data have come and gone. Just
Yes,
few
yes, they
remain. So
have.
the origin of this came out of a DoD project that I started, the Blueprint for Regional Excellence in breast cancer care, and the NCI invested in helping us build it out. And the reason why we moved it to quantum is because UCSF was going to make patients sign informed consent to use the tool.
Mm, mm.
And we felt like that was ridiculous. And I had just started Quantum and I said, hey, about being the sponsor.
Yeah.
And that's why
So,
so it actually came under the Quantum umbrella, and or I think before it was Quantum, it was, I forget what we were called, something like that, but basically the same thing.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
It was a track. But
Yeah.
we had tried a bunch of things too. We had actually I tried to, I thought, oh, we can help, we can't have every trial open. If they're interesting trials, we'll help other people recruit and tell people about it if they wanted to travel. And people didn't want to give us the protocols. They thought we were going to steal the protocols. I'm like, I'm not stealing your protocol. I don't
Oh,
want your
wow.
protocol. And so, there's just, yeah. And we have, we used to do BCT Connect too, but again, it's the same thing. It's like everybody's got their own agenda and it's very hard, and not enough people have the patient's agenda. And yeah, so that's part of it. But we've kept we've maintained our purpose for all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even there's other tools out there currently that use AI, but they're really not as good as this tool. So I think we still remain as the gold standard, that
Yeah, and
everybody's.
we've done lots of things too. Like, we tried to get Ellie and I had figured out that there were like 4 or 5 questions that we could ask people when they put their patients in breast cancer trials, I mean, in clinicaltrials.gov.
Hmm.
Did that, like you could automate all of this without really, otherwise it would be really easy. And
Right, right.
at the end of it, we went to CA Big and they were going to do it. And then Harold Varmus dissolved CA Big. And then we tried to do it. We went back to um, clinicaltrials.gov. And honestly, the reason why they didn't want to do it is because they also abstract. I mean, there's like 100 people doing the same thing, which is just so dumb and annoying. But
Yeah.
they were worried that it would take away their jobs. I'm like, no, you could be on the phone helping people connect to trials.
Right, right. Yeah.
But I think it
Um,
might be worth trying that again at some point.
yeah, actually, I was just on a call today with ASCO. They have a CDK trial that they wanted to talk to us about. And I mentioned the five questions, and they're going to try to connect me with somebody that might be able to help. Or I think it's a policy issue, but that's
That would be great. And what about ASCO's clinical trials? CancerLink.
yeah. Well, she said that she didn't know. This was Amanda Bloomer that I talked to, and she said that she was going to connect me with somebody else
I
that
still
might.
think it's a good idea. And then and there's more AI tools, so I think there could be more done for
Yeah,
less. But again, it's the frame that's patient center that makes the difference.
yeah, yeah. Next slide, please. So we started with 3 programs, now we have 5 that we use. We have our original breast cancer trial search, which is for early stage for healthy and high risk women, and also stage 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then we started metastatic trial search, and that began in 2015. And it was really because we got some feedback from the metastatic breast cancer community, and they wanted a tool that addressed their specific needs. And so we collaborated with these 5 different advocacy groups with the goal of embedding it on their websites so that people could look for trials on sites that they were already familiar and comfortable. And today we have it linked to over, I think, 46 different partner websites. Um, and then we have our Metastatic Trial Talk, which is a monthly online newsletter that's designed to keep people updated on what's new in breast cancer research and learn more about the clinical trial process. We list all new trials that are added to metastatic trial search each month. And then we know that it's really overwhelming for patients to use Google to find breast cancer information. So we try to whittle down the millions of hits you would get on Google and to a few carefully selected patient-friendly articles on the newsletter. And we just recently expanded our newsletter to have an early stage trial talk. Again, this was feedback from our users that um, patients want to know about clinical trials and understand them. They're not just for metastatic patients. And then we, as we have tried to make the website as patient-friendly as possible, we still have patients that are newly diagnosed and really don't understand their biomarkers, how to look at their pathology report to pull that information out. So we do offer one-on-one clinical trial navigation, where I can sit down and talk with the patient and help them fill out their profile, answer any questions that they have about clinical trials as well. Next slide, please. So this is kind of what a listing looks like on clinicaltrials.gov. Um, Again, like Laura was saying, there's no structure to it. Different researchers put different information for each trial. It's really hard to understand, I would say, for providers as well. And so we have specific categories that we write about. We always take the title and we try to make it a little more plain language, patient friendly. We do a purpose, what's it for, what's involved. Um, and then, so when I think that's okay, we could go to the next slide. Um, so then I want to talk about different types of trials because when people think about clinical trials, they usually think about treatment trials. And these are trials that study new drugs such as immunotherapies, target therapies, and then we have what we call non-treatment trials. And these are quality of life studies. And they look at managing side effects from disease or from treatment or better ways to prevent your cancer from coming back. Um, these trials often incorporate diet and exercise and other integrative options like yoga or acupuncture. And then registries are another type of study. And they're a great way for people to participate in research. Usually, you don't have to go anywhere or do anything. You fill out a survey or a questionnaire. You might have to provide blood or saliva samples. And then data collected through these registries are used by researchers to determine kind of what gaps to focus on in improving treatment and care. Um, Next slide, please. So this is just a little bit of our like what breastcancertrials.org. We've been around for 18 years actually, and we have about 60,000 patients visit our site. We have over 5,000 subscribed to Metastatic Trial Talk, and We have over 46 partner organizations. Next slide, please. I can show you some of the partners that we have. We really try to work with the breast cancer advocacy organizations that are out there. And again, we either link to the site, our breastcancertrials.org site, or we embed it on their site so that patients come to their trusted organizations to find clinical trial information. Next slide, please. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir since you are familiar with wisdom, but why do people join trials? I think it's a very personal decision, but most people participate either to get access to new therapies that are not yet widely available. And trials can offer, additional options when standard treatments have been limited. They get expert medical care. As if you've participated in Wisdom, you have experienced that. You're monitored closely by research physicians and clinical teams. You contribute to medical progress. Um, and you can improve your understanding of your condition. The structured nature of trials helps provide deeper insights into your health. And then, next slide, please. Oh, uh-oh, that's not the slide. Let's see, try the next one after that. Maybe I don't have it, but I also had a slide on why join a trial if you don't have cancer. But again, you guys are probably familiar with what a clinical trial is like. Um, but we are interested in your feedback always. We always like to get topics for our newsletters from our advocates and for patients out there. If there's any topic that you're interested in, please reach out to us and let us know what you want to hear about. And so the next thing I was going to do was to actually do a demonstration of how to use the site. So let me try my computer again and see if it's working. If there's any questions in the meantime while I'm getting this up. Still looking like it's going slow.
Do you want me to get on the site?
Okay, maybe we can do that. So if you go to breastcancertrials.org.
Okay, hang on. Let's go do that.
I also say it's something that as I go through the demonstration, you can also follow along on your phone because we are mobile friendly.
Okay, where am I? Share. Okay. Oh, look, DCIS recast right there on the front page.
Yes, we just added that there. But this is our site. And even the look of it has been something that patients have talked to us about. They wanted something that looked user-friendly. But you have the options here to click on breast cancer trial search or metastatic trial search. And so what we're going to do is click on that first box.
You want me to continue as a guest?
Yes, and so here we can continue as a guest. And then you're going to be asked a few questions here, like 7 questions total. You're going to be asked, have you been newly diagnosed with cancer? Are you a survivor? Do you have stage 4? And if you have stage 4, you'll be directed to our metastatic trial search. And then if you've not had breast cancer, and I know that there's a number of people here that haven't had breast cancer, and we can take a quick peek at that. So why don't you click there? And if you click where it says click here, yeah.
Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
You've
And
matched to
then
94 trials. Yep.
yeah, 94 trials that you can join. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see that there's a map. And look, wisdom comes up first. Um, a map of where all these trials are located across the US. And then you can kind of scroll through these trials to um, see what you might be interested in. There's registries, there's collecting samples, um, there's different, like you can do an MRI that you might not, your insurance might not cover otherwise. Um, but if you go back to the top, we'll show you how you can find, if you click on the breastcancertrials.org logo at the very top.
Right here.
Uh-huh. We'll
Right
go
here?
back. Yep. You should be able to go back. If you go continue as a guest, and you have the option to register and create a profile, which has a lot of advantages, or you can continue as a guest, kind of go through the questions, and then after you put in your information, you can always register and your information will be saved. But let's go and say that we have early stage breast cancer. We'll click that first one. We'll say it's our first diagnosis. You see that in the like blue box, yes, and then go next. The next question is going to ask about your stage. You can say stage 2, and then you'll be asked a question about your biomarkers. And this is where newly diagnosed patients sometimes struggle. For this demo, we're going to say we're triple negative, so we're going to say estrogen negative. PR negative, HER2 negative. It asks some questions about genetic testing and some mutations. You can always say you're unsure if you don't know about those. You can press next.
And where's the learn more buttons? Because those I think are so those are still there, right?
Yes. There's sometimes we'll
Where's
show
that?
you when we get to the
Okay.
next section. Um, they're going to ask about the histology of your tumor. Ductal is the most common, so we're going to click that for this.
Yes, she's got a triple negative. We won't do ductal lobular. Okay.
This demo. The date of your current diagnosis, we'll say May of 2026. Just click that. And then we ask some demographic questions. Female. If you are pre or postmenopausal, you can click that there. We ask for your birth year. You can put in whatever you want to put in there.
Let's
And
see.
then we ask for your zip code, and this is really important to put your zip code in because the way the tool sorts is it'll show you trials that are closest to you first and then go out from there. More demographic questions. What is your race? And your level of education. And then after you do that, again, you will be shown that there are 232 trials across the US that you may be eligible for. And what I tell people to do when they first bring up that 232 trials, which is kind of a lot of trials to look at, is to narrow it down a little bit. And there's 3 red buttons right underneath that map. The first one, yes, if you click on that, um, you can filter by your zip code. So this is your zip code, and if you slide that little bar over to maybe like 100 miles from your zip code, something that's you can still drive to. It'll show you the trials that are located closest to you. And a lot of people like to start with that. Um, there was also on that page, you can sort by phase of trial. Sometimes patients are really educated and they know I don't want a phase 1 trial or I will try that. We'll leave that blank for now, but I just wanted to point it out there
What
um,
happens when I do that?
that that's a possibility to narrow things down.
Now we're
Um,
down to 8.
yeah, yeah. The next button, the next red button there in the middle, it says filter by trial type. And we talked a little bit about the different types of trials. We have the treatment trials, we have targeted therapy, immunotherapy, all of those on the top. So if you were interested in a specific type of trial, you could click that. And then we have the non-treatment trials. below that. So if it was a person that wanted to manage side effects or prevent recurrence, they could click that specifically. We will,
Fertility or something.
yeah, we can leave that alone for now, just pointing it out. And then this third red button that's underneath is by mutations. And if you knew that if you did some genomic testing and found that you had a specific mutation and wanted a trial that was directed specifically at that mutation, you could click that here if you wanted. But we're going to leave that blank for now. And then we'll scroll down and kind of look at some of the trials that come up. Um, and on the right side, you'll see where that trial is located. This one's at UCSF. Another thing we try to do is help patients by letting them know, how many times they have to come in. It's often difficult for patients to have multiple times where they have to come in, and they want to kind of know that up front. Every clinical trial has an NCT number that links it back to clinicaltrials.gov, and we put that there. So if you wanted to see the full listing of the trial, you could click on that. We put the phase of it. And then you see that we have rewritten the title. And if you see on the top there, it says show scientific title right underneath the number one. You would see the title that is listed on clinicaltrials.gov. And sometimes this one's not as bad as some of the other ones, but sometimes it's really, you have no idea what they're talking about. So we try to rewrite that in plain language to make that more easier to read. We list the purpose, who is it for? If you click on full trial details, um, we will also show you what's involved, if there's a drug, how it's taken, how often. We give a few bullet points about exactly what they're trying to study. And then we have links that you can link out to read more about that trial. And then if you go down a little bit more and just say hide details there. And then you'll see there's a bottom bar. And then if a patient is like, I'm really interested in this trial, um, now what do I do? And I always suggest that they talk to their provider. And if you click on share with a provider, that's trial locations. But
Yeah, I was jumping ahead. I was anticipating. Send an
um,
email, download the PDF, or copy the
it,
link.
Yeah, and if you click on send email, we have already kind of written out the email for you. So you just put in your name and email address, and then we attach the NCT number. So you could send this right to your provider. You can cancel out of that. But if you wanted to print it out and bring it with you, you could do that as well. You could save it to your profile if you wanted to come back and look at it later. And then if you look at view locations and contact information, um, patients have mixed results with this of trying to um, call a trial directly, whether they get like a prompt response or not, but it's something they can try. Also, they can try to call that hospital and their clinical trial team. Sometimes they get some information that way about, you can say there's a trial that you have available, and I'm interested in determining my eligibility. And so you can click out of that. But um, it's really a way that we have tried to just make it easier for patients to find trials that they're eligible for, especially if their doctor doesn't have any trials for them at the hospital that they're being treated at.
Here's I Spy 2, of course.
Yeah.
Um, where does it show of you locations? I want to see if it has all of them on here. So yeah, there's lots of locations. That's good.
And Laura, do you want to comment on the law that allows for people to participate in a clinical trial if it's not offered at their own institution?
Yeah. So this is SB 37. It was written by Jackie Spear with my help in 2000, I think 2007. You should look it up. It's either 2003 or 2007. And what this bill says is if you want to participate in a trial and is not offered where you are getting your care, you can go to the institution where it is being offered, and your insurance has to cover the standard of care costs without additional copay for uh, while you're in the trial. And this is really important because it really provides an opportunity for people to participate in trials. I would say that we have maybe 20% of our patients on iSpy come to us this way. I actually recently I know there are 36 sites. I've been working on trying to get national legislation to make this easy so you could cross state lines. And there's a bill that just hasn't been passed. There are 36 states that have something like this. I was just on the phone with someone in Chicago and sent her to the University of Chicago. It's called the Patients' Bill of Rights Act, and it was passed in January of 2025. They, of course, her place told her that she'd have to do all these copays, which I already read the legislation. It's not true. So it's just one of these things that it's there, but just like any legislation, if you don't push people to reinforce it, you can't use it. And you have to work hard. All our coordinators know about it. And we send a copy of the SB 37 to the referring provider, and they have to get a referral. It's annoying how hard people have to work, but I think it's hugely important. And this is like, we can't punish small practitioner offices or smaller hospitals or groups that don't do research for not having research. But you then have to make sure that people have access to trials. It's not fair for some people to have access and others not. And these have to be therapeutic trials. We actually have an arrangement with Kaiser that they come here for the systemic treatment, but go to Kaiser at the San Francisco site to get their surgery, which is fine because they send the pathology over. But for iSpy, for example, but we do this quite frequently, but we have a clinical trial staff that knows the law. We have it printed out and ready to go, but this is something people should know. And this is, should we ever have a Congress that's able to pass any legislation that's useful for patients? Do you remember what the national bill is called? We should get back to trying to get it covered nationally as well. Does anyone have any questions about that? I really think it's a super important bill.
I don't see any questions in the chat, just excitement. Excellent job getting that passed, and thank you.
Laura, I have a question for you because, I've talked to a lot of patients who find it they're looking for a trial and they find it at a different hospital, MD Anderson or Dana-Farber or something like that. And in order to even determine their eligibility for that trial, they have to become a patient at that site first. And so they're looking for trials, and so they have all of this paperwork that they have to go through to become a patient there so they can see if they're eligible. Do you know of any bills or anything that could facilitate that process a little easier for patients?
First of all, any study coordinator worth their salt should talk to patients and help them figure out if they're eligible.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's the study coordinator's job. And then if they are, they need to be referred so they can get these bills allow you to come for a consult. And the thing is, you have to know the law if you want to use it.
Right.
This is called the Clinical Trial Coverage Act. And it was introduced in 2022. And I'm trying to get this passed. my son was actually working in her office before he went to law school. And I told him he couldn't leave until he got the bill passed. He told me, he told me that he would get it out and get it introduced, but he could not be responsible for what Congress did. And he is, of course, graduated from law school and been a public defender for 3 years. And of course, the bill is not passed. So he was sadly quite correct.
Hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Mercilessly using my children to advance the cause.
Hmm.
But it was very interesting because, you have to get all these people to sign on and say you want to do it. But, there's all these bills. There are state by state, but, it doesn't say you can go from one state to another. This is a California bill or a Illinois bill or something else. And it really should be national coverage.
Right.
Doesn't everyone think so? Or don't you think so, Sabrina?
Yeah, definitely.
And it should be standard. Here's your first. We can try and you should, here, I'm putting this in the chat. Um, and I'm going to put it in here. And we should look and see if you think the language is clear enough. See, where is the chat? There's the chat. That's a link to the bill. And here's just a description, but it is true. People will say it's not true and you can't do it. And you send them, and we just send them a copy of the bill because clearly it is true. I mean, I know it's true because I helped write it. She asked me what would be helpful. And I said, this would be very helpful. In the California SB 37, I'll send you the link. I'll put in the link to SB 37 also. But you have to, unfortunately, you have to know your rights and you have to know how to advocate for yourself, unfortunately, you know. And, people will often say, oh, that's not true. And, I sometimes have to threaten people that I'm going to go to the press. And that usually works very well. I said, I'm sure this isn't what you would advocate, but I'm sure your organization wouldn't like it if we went to the press about it. You're denying this cancer patient an opportunity to be part of a trial.
Right.
And then the next day you usually get the referral. But you shouldn't have to do that. But instead of being mad about it, you just do it. Um, anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
That one I think is a different one, Laura. The
Oh,
one
did I
that you're
put the wrong
showing.
one? This is Senate Bill number 37.
But it's a different name.
Okay, let me just SB 37, SB 37, California.
There's a nice summary of it on the UC Davis website, actually, I can put in the chat.
No, you know what it is? It's like it is. It's SB California, clinical trial coverage.
It seems like there would be more talk of this at some of the big cancer meetings, like the ASCO meeting coming up. Is this something that's on the radar of other
Nope. I mean,
clinicians and researchers?
here's the description of it. I guess there's lots of SB 37s, and this was from
2002.
2002. Wow. uh,
Yeah. While we're that paused a little bit. Are there questions for Sabrina or for Laura on clinical trial participation? I know one thing, Sabrina, in the intro that we were talking about is the importance of diversity in clinical trials. I don't know if you want to talk on that for a couple minutes.
Sure. And one of the reasons why we added the navigation service to help patients on our site was we were finding that most of the patients that came to our site were highly educated white women. And we were trying to think about how we could help underserved populations. And I think if you're highly educated, you get breast cancer, you learn about your biomarkers, you do your research, but then there's a lot of patients that just don't know this information, and so that's why we added the navigator to go over it with them one-on-one, so that they can also make a profile and find trials. We did a study recently with Sisters Network. It's a national African American breast cancer education and support group. And we asked them, what they knew about clinical trials, if their doctor had asked them, how they felt about them, if there was mistrust. And the majority of them, I think 70%, said that their doctor never talked to them about clinical trials. So there's a big um, barrier there, and providers don't talk about clinical trials for a variety of reasons. Maybe they don't have time, or they don't think that their patient would be interested in it, or there's no trials at their particular site, and the patient would have to go outside of that hospital that they're being treated at. Um, they also said that if they were asked about trials, I think about half of them said that they would be likely to participate. And the results of that study, we changed a little bit about how our website looked and some of our materials that we send out so that they are more friendly to diverse audiences as well.
There's a question in the chat. Is the website available in other languages?
Um,
It used to be in Spanish
yeah, but that was like
a long time
Google
ago.
Translate, and it wasn't as good. Right now, we do have an intern that's working with us, and we are going to do
Vanessa is doing that, right?
a question and answer in Spanish. She's done a lot of translating for us.
What's very interesting is the plain language summaries
Mhm.
are often available in different languages at a lot of different sites. And these are the plain language summaries, which are very short. And
Mhm.
it's very interesting because I was at, UCSF does something like if you have more than two people or more even than one person who signs a consent, then you have to translate the whole long consent. And I asked our central IRB chair for iSpy and Recast, I said, so is that a UCSF thing or is that a national law? He said, no, that's a UCSF thing. He said, the whole idea about the plain language summary is that you can make something that's more easily accessible to people and that they can understand. And if you if that isn't good enough, why even have the plain language summary? So they make it so that anybody can do it. So one thing that you might want to do when you're pulling this down is if there's see if clinicaltrials.gov I think may force them to put um, uh, the plain language summary attached that you could then have, which I think is good, and see if they have it available in different languages.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them because they're short. The plain language summary is usually a page, right?
Uh-huh. Right. That's a good idea.
There was another question asking about sort of who is using the tool. I know you had some metrics, but there's a question about how accessible it is to providers and how much providers use it to encourage access and participation amongst their
There's
more diverse patients.
there's a long history of some of this, Sabrina. You may not even know some of it, but it was, we did this thing on Clinical Trials Connect. This was probably 10 years ago, where we tried to make it so that there was a link where you could if you were eligible, that you could then click on this Trial Connect and people could then just accept the information and take it and look at it, and it would save them a ton of work. But, again, there's all this suspicion about like, why are you having people contact me? I'm like, because someone wants to join your trial.
Hmm.
And so, but I wonder, some of the things that Ellie did or Ellie and I did like years ago, just kind of ahead of their time. And with AI, maybe much more accessible now
Right.
that we should maybe revive. And it's like, send the structured information to your provider. I mean, the whole idea we meant is like, if you've already bothered to do all this work, I mean, this is the whole thing that I wanted to use this for the front end for people with metastatic disease, because then they could get all the information together and connect to trials. And you could make it so that you could adapt it. Any institution could adapt the system for their own trials too.
Hmm.
You know, it's just, I mean, I appreciate that, the reason why we did this and the person who really compelled us to do it this way was the CFO of Shutterfly, who actually kept herself alive with metastatic disease, HER2-positive metastatic disease, for almost 12 years, she participated in 9 trials.
Mm.
And she said, we can't necessarily fix the doctors, but we can at least have something that'll fix things so the patients can find things. And you are 100% right. If people don't offer the trials, that's bad. But people like Ricky Fairley are trying to reach out to Black women to, through retrial and get people to hear that, clinical trials are tomorrow's treatments today. They don't
Mhm.
always work. That's why it's a trial. But it's an opportunity for you to think about something that might be better. Might not be, but clinical trials should always be a consideration. And I don't know how else to get the message out. This is just one way of getting the message out. I wish I could get every clinician to say, think about it. But, when clinicians are told they've got 10 minutes a patient, they're not going to
Mhm.
do this. And they're certainly not going to send someone to another site. They're not incentivized to send someone out of their system.
Right.
That's just not how the system works. So patients are one way, and the more we can activate people to know what their rights are and that they should ask about trials, or the fact that they can look and find it fairly easily themselves, that's just one way to combat it.
Yeah. All
But I think
right.
you should put a
And
page up that says, know your rights, like you say, and then put these bills up there that have been passed. And we should do some more education about that because I think, I was once told that breast cancer is political. And, initially in my advocacy journey, I wasn't as interested in the politics of it, but I think you have to be. That's how change occurs.
Right. I didn't mean to actually, did we finish our demo? Or should I do,
yes,
do we finish?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I did find the slide. We just have a couple minutes, but I did find the slide about why join a clinical trial if you don't have cancer. I can stick up there just as a closing for
Okay.
um let's see.
I think people should think of clinical trials as part of care. And, a lot of the trials we design, make it, we try and design trials that are going to look like the care we want to deliver tomorrow. And,
Mhm.
the wisdom trial is a perfect example of a trial where we didn't know that it would be better, but we thought it was going to be better. But you were doing something that gave you additional information that could be better. Now we know the answer that yes, it is better. So anyone who participates in the study will get better care or
Hmm.
more tailored care. And it doesn't mean that everything is perfect, but it means that we have an approach that's better than what we used to do. And, you know, it is, and again, it's one of those trials where you are contributing, you're getting information for yourself, but you're also contributing to the knowledge that will help your mothers, your sisters, your daughters, your friends get better care today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, Sabrina, take it away.
Yeah, I just want to say there's just plenty of trials. I hope you can come and look at the site. There are plenty of trials to join. I'm always looking for new trials that I can join. I joined a diet trial recently that had really great results. There's a lot of fun stuff out there for cancer survivors and for helping high risk individuals who are looking to improve science and even have some personal benefit from it as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sabrina. There was another question. What can we do to help you get more done or help to spread the word about the website and the service that you provide?
Yeah, we're always looking for feedback. If you go to our site and something is confusing to you, we'd love to know about it. If you have any ideas for articles for a newsletter, we'd love to know about it. Please reach
How
out.
about volunteers, Sabrina?
Yeah, we also have a advisory council for breastcancertrials.org that meets monthly. Always looking for new advocates to join that as well.
And
Just
if
let me
there's something, and if you're really excited about it, we've actually had people volunteer and really spend 10 hours a week helping to finish curating trials or do things. I mean, Sabrina can certainly use the help. And
Yeah.
advocating for it, spreading the word, making sure people understand this. This is really something that everyone, every, that's part of the reason we do these forums is to make sure that people realize how important it is to get to reframe what a clinical trial is. A lot of people would say, oh, why would I be in a trial? I don't want to be a guinea pig. And as we've talked about here, that's not what trials are today. You're trying to learn new things, you're trying to advance the science. And, we need as, clinicians, scientists, or whatever people who are leading trials have to do a better job of making sure all the information we learn gets back to everyone that's participated in a trial. But, no participation, no representation, and no, and, the longer it takes to learn, the longer it takes for things to get better. Every advance that we have in breast cancer has come through clinical trials, and a lot of clinical trials have been completed because of the advocacy of patients. So I actually think the patients are the key here, and the whole community is so important, and making sure that that's the word. The minute someone's got cancer, the first thing you said, have you thought about a clinical trial? Are there any clinical trials that you can participate in? That should just be a standard thing that everybody asks.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sabrina. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for sharing this awesome tool that hopefully people will be able to share to those who may need it, including healthy volunteers, like for those who might participate in studies like Wisdom. So love to see that those are on there too. And again, thank you so much. We'll send out some links to those who have registered for the series today. And the next meeting is the last Monday of June, which is June 29th. Our topic is still to be determined, but we will send it out as soon as we have it and hope that everyone will join us at the end of June.
Yeah, send us what you want to hear about next.
Yes, there is a survey in the chat. A quick survey if you want to give us your feedback would be very helpful. We always appreciate that. But again, thank you, Sabrina, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Actually, we could talk about Eway's paper.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Let's have Eway talk about it.
Okay, great. Excellent. It'll be some new results that will be presented next week at the big ASCO conference. So we'll be able to share it with you after.
And it will
after
be
the conference.
published in JAMA Oncology same day.
Yes. Yes, yes. All right. Great idea.